very subtly, that was, I would be see no, and so I'd have my hand on my eye. Michelle would be holding her ear, and Kevin might put his hand on his mouth or something, but it was an inside joke for us: hear no, speak no, see no evil. I think VALENE started a particular way, a little more vulnerable, a little with the braids and the gloves, going to church on Sunday. I always said Monday through Friday is school, Saturday is chores, and Sunday's church. And it was all, you know, Dallas proper, and sort of dressed up for that. But as the years went on, and thank David Jacobs and Michael Filerman, who created the show, she came into her own very definitely. And if we ever did another reunion or another 2-hour, 4-hour show, I would hope that she's running the studio, that she has become Sherry Lansing, who is now running Paramount Studios. I think that's the correct arc for VALENE. But definitely, she went from more timid and a little more shy to stepping into her own. No, there's definitely a challenge, but with each season, in an odd way, I think you become more and more bonded to who that heart and soul of that person, of that character is. But definitely, it was, you know, such a long run that I would jump to Williamstown Theater Festival back in Williamstown, Massachusetts. I would jump at any opportunity during our hiatus, which was very short because thankfully and gratefully, the CBS network ordered, you know, more episodes usually each season, as they did with Dallas. So we would end up with a very short hiatus, but I would grab any opportunity to jump into somebody else's shoes, into some other silhouette, into some other character, so that I could come back to VALENE and be, you know, fresh again and have had a yin-yang kind of experience. It's very funny you asked me that question because I had lunch with Debbie Reynolds on Saturday. I presented an award to her. Her brother was my makeup man for most of the years on Knots Landing. And we talked about that very, very thing. And she said, I was difficult like you, you know, and I thought, what is she saying? Ouch, what is this? And she said, when you have a director and you have an instinct about what she would or would not do, I thought to myself, yes, I protected VALENE. I don't think it's hiding on my part. It's that I really felt with every fiber in me that I knew what she would or would not do. And it's funny, now years later, I'm way far from VALENE, and I always said that VALENE was the Colorado in me, and Joan, with other parts, is the New York City where I was born in me. But VALENE's the Colorado and the Dallas, Texas, and the Tennessee and all that with the Southern, you know. So I did fight for things with both the producers, David and Michael, and not fight. It was a wonderful, luckily, collaboration, or it wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. But I would you see, we get new directors every week, and it wasn't always, oh, sure, I'll go over there and eat a pastrami sandwich, because, of course, VALENE did that all the time. If that wasn't right and it was supposed to be tuna fish, I would fight for tuna fish. You know, I really feel that there's a part of me that became a part of her and vice versa. So I did defend her. Well, you know, it's funny. With both Julie Harris, who, thank the Lord, played my mother, what a blessing. Alec Baldwin is my brother, hello, thank you. And Ted Shackelford, whom I adore, didn't initially when we did Wonder Woman together, but Ted Shackelford is my husband. I mean, come on, and then I have Michelle and Donna. It was like, Donna said once, with Knots, it was always a pleasure to get up in the morning and go to work, because you always had a new acting partner and someone wonderful to bounce off of. Finally, way late in the seasons, I got a chance with Bill Devane, who is pure gold. I mean, and he was brilliant and helpful, and blew cigar smoke in my face in the scene, because it was a business scene. A little VALENE goody two-shoes doesn't quite know in this corporate setup how to behave. So he made the scene work by, you know, smoking on a cigar, blowing it right in my face, the whole scene. And VALENE is trying to be proper and pretty and nice and pretend she doesn't notice it, when in fact she's about to fall off her chair. So we had actors like that. It was just a total blessing. you know, there are changes and collaborations and all kinds. You have to stay fluid and liquid with both your instinct for the scene and the fact of whatever your partner or partners are bringing into the scene. It also makes me think, once a year, once a season, when it was Karen Mack and VALENE in a kitchen scene, which is inevitable, it's going to happen maybe every episode, but certainly once a year, we would end the scene somehow, see no, speak no, hear no. So we would, at the end of the scene, go into a pose very subtly that was, I would be see no, and so I'd have my hand on my eye. Michelle would be holding her ear, and Kevin might put his hand on his mouth or something, but it was an inside joke for us, hear no, speak no, see no evil. So that was the button on at least one kitchen scene a season.
We're going to have to find that scene.
Yes, hear no, speak no, what is it? See no, speak no, hear no, evil. And we did it once a year, because there were kitchen scenes. That was, you know, the place du jour to have all the good scenes.
Sounds like you had a lot of fun.
Well, we had to. If you're there for 14 or 15 years, you have to have a lot of fun. Well, I think it was the kids' crawdads or something. That was the season that was the most difficult for me, because I had a feeling the writers were sending me up. I wasn't, you know, I really felt it was weird, because they did do things that were so outlandish. Now, when you say VALENE going crazy, that's pretty much every season. And you know, in a nighttime soap, such as it is, I think the more Sturm and Drang, the more drama, the more obstacles you have, the better your character, the better airtime and the better scenes you're going to have. But frying or boiling the crawdads for the kids, that seemed, because the children, as you well know from the first, the only time Knots Landing was #1 for the whole week was when VALENE got her twins back. I met Magic Johnson at an amazing event honoring Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Magic, when I met him, which I'm about to pass out because I'm a basketball freak, he says, "Oh my God, when you got those twins back and you were running down the stairs and your hair was wet from the shower, and Julie Harris was there and she's crying away, and then Karen was there and Michelle Lee, she's crying away." He's telling me about a scene I did that I didn't even remember the details that he remembered. And this is Magic Johnson. I mean, and I love basketball, and it was like, God is telling me he watches my show. So it was exciting. Well, here's the tougher part. We didn't hit that scene till midnight, because on Friday nights, as everybody in the business knows, you can go without golden time. So that happened, you know, not at the most opportune peak of the energy kind of a day, but it was amazing. I sometimes don't know. I mean, I know when I do all the homework. There's a movie called Shine, and John Gielgud tells Jeffrey Rush, you've got to practice, 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 study, 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 look. Then when you get to the set and it's the moment, throw it all away and just hope God's sitting on your shoulder, you know, to just your talent will put it there. But those kinds of scenes were challenging, but of course the most rewarding. I mean, there's a scene where I wash my face, which is something I suggested to the director in order to transist from the Abby wannabe with all the, you know, wild hair and the hooker makeup and all of that, when she was trying to find her twins. And I said, the way to make me feel more naked than actual nudity and to go into this new character, which was going to be Verna Ehlers in Tennessee as a waitress, would be for me to wash my face at the sink in the bathroom and completely wash everything off and start all over again. We had one false start because I told the cameraman, if we don't get this, or if there's a stumble or a hiccup, stop, because once this face is clean, it's a wrap, we're going home, okay? So we had one false start, and the next time I come from the bedroom and all the hooker makeup's mascara running all over my face, I go in the bathroom, look in the mirror, turn on the water, wash my whole face, soapy, 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 rinse it, and put a whole new makeup on and become this other character. Hello, hi. And I was just talking into the mirror. And that's the scene I'm the most proud of to this day. It's the best because we all did it together. It was the cameraman, the crew, our producer who wrote it, Peter done, and it was just, it's the happiest I've ever been on a set. It was the best. We all did almost that Mary Tyler Moore hug at the end, really, and we're crying because it was just, it worked. And CBS, God bless them, left that entire 5 minutes, no breaking it up or whatever, just left the whole scene to play just as we did it, which in those days, that was a huge compliment and a wonderful thing. Well, Verna Ehlers, yes, he comes there, and even Donna came there too. Abby comes there, and I tossed in when we did the take, when she sat down to order, and I said, "Can I take your order?" "Oh, what beautiful eyes." You know, I looked right, I just threw that, because Donna's eyes are like, nobody has eyes like Donna Mills, bitch. But no, I can't, I don't know, she has gorgeous eyes. You'll never be able to use it. But when Ted came in, all the scenes that we did with Gary and Val in that little chunk where I was another person, another character, which is medically, I don't even know the term now, but people do that. They retreat to another person, another character, with the same initials, not VALENE Ewing, so it was Verna Ehlers. But everything we did during that pocket of time was just a gift. I mean, I love working with Ted anyway, but it was just gold, I think. Well, I think that Knots, more than any other of the, if you want to call them soaps, had their feet on the ground more than any of the others, and they were all wonderful. I mean, I'd rather see the diamonds dripping and the furs falling off, sliding off their arms, and throwing down the drinks at the liquor cart or whatever, the bar cart. But the truth was that Knots had characters and people that I think more people could actually relate to, and we were real. David Jacobs used to say that Dallas is about them, and Knots is about us. And it's closer to home somehow. And I think that's why, and we never pushed the envelope with the Moldavia, dying in the castle mess. It looks like Jonestown after the Kool-Aid or something. There were bodies everywhere. That's when they were trying to decide who did they want to come back. I have one of those and a couple of those and a little bit of that. So, it was like pushing the envelope a bit, which I don't know that Knots, typically did. We might have a couple times, but mostly not. I embrace it, and I'll tell you why. There's not a show on right now at this moment that isn't soap, meaning a continuing story. They're all continuing. And I always thought soap was the only thing that meant from one week to the next you had to follow each and every one, but that's what every one of them. Now, the procedurals on CBS maybe, because they take each, but in a way there's still continuum in those characters' stories. So their love or their hate or their daughter or their son or whatever, there's continuum. So all of the good shows are soap. Castle, my favorite show right now. Totally that. But in the most amazingly wonderful way. Because if you cast it right and you've got wonderful exec producers and writers, there you are. I want scripted back. Yeah, they were solving, but in fact the procedurals are soap-esque. Yeah. They have, soap I embrace because it gave me, 14, 15 years of my life, but also because it's the real deal when it's done right, and it's what everybody else is doing. Well, they were more glamorous, far more glamorous. We had our gorgeous Abby and gorgeous Michelle, but they pushed toward the glamour more and pushed that button, and it was a wealthier show. It had a wealthier look. All of Aaron Spelling's shows, I think, had that look, which was glorious, classy and rich and layered and all those wonderful things. And meanwhile, this character, VALENE Ewing, was in a man's work shirt and blue jeans all the time, holding two little twins in either arm. So that part was tough. That's why I would scramble during hiatus to go find a glamorous lady to do. Well, I think on Dallas, I'm not going to say it was melodramatic, but they had categories. What was kind of wonderful in the Overwash were the guys were guys and, they were cowboys, and the women were gorgeous Dallas ladies, all of them gorgeous, looked like former Miss Dallas, every single one of them, including the one that was my daughter, Lucy. Charlene Tilton. They were all Miss something, Miss Fort Worth, Miss Dallas, I don't know, Laredo, all those cities in the South. But they were, so it was very, not stereotypical, but might have started out that way with the villain JR, the best villain ever on TV, I think. God bless Larry Hagman. Everybody loves a good villain. I mean, Donna Abbey was ours in a way, but you loved her too, because you just love to see that person get their way and figure out each week what they're going to do next to someone. So, and Larry has that twinkle. I mean, I was at his 80th birthday a couple weeks ago. Larry has a twinkle. It's like it's not a coincidence that he's the son of Peter Pan, because Mary Martin she was airborne with a twinkle. Larry has that in his heart and soul. I mean, even if he plays the dastardly JR, he has that twinkle and you love him. And I think that set him apart. And I think people get a vicarious thrill out of seeing someone wink, wink, and get away with it. But they had all those kind of stereotypes, and I think that was one of the most establishing things about Dallas, and made it kind of in a category all by itself. Horseback riding, growing up as a teenager, wow, it made me verklempt. That's funny. Woo! I don't know if that's the real me or if the New York City is the real me, because I'm Gemini, so there's two very definite ladies fighting, and they're the twins. Not the two I had on the show, but the ones that exist in me. So I think that VALENE tapped into the denim, blue jeans, Colorado wide open spaces, horseback riding after school. Now I run every day, and I always think that that's the Colorado part of me out here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, with all the stuff that goes on. It gives me my horseback ride every day. And so I would tap into that more, and I think it's more wholesome. I want to play an Auntie Mame character. That's the New York, okay? And I have, luckily, thankfully. But I think that the blue jeans and the man's work shirt rolled with the sleeves rolled up and out on riding horseback in the wide open spaces with the mountains and all that, that's more the VALENE. The accent did go away because about the second, maybe even just the second or third, but I think it might have been the second season, David and Michael, we used to have lunchtime readings, and David and Michael said, David Jacobs and Michael Fileman, the producers, said, I think we should, wean away from, I think too the network, they said wean away from the accent, and I think the network, CBS, wanted now, we sort of borrowed Larry and Patrick Duffy and some of the characters, Miss Ellie, to come on Knots Landing to help us as the little stepsister thing. But once Knots established its own, which was in the second year, I think they wanted it not to have the Dallas shadow. So I think that was maybe part of why they wanted to drop it. I loved that, I liked that about her, because that kept her with a fingerprint that was her own, So I would have stayed with the accent and made it slighter, but still always just a little bit there. Because once you're in the South, unless you move to London, you're going to keep, talking with a little bit of a twang, a little sloppy there. Well, now that I have some distance, yes, there is reshuffling. When there's a new member in the family, when there's a little boy and a little sister comes in that's absolutely adorable, and it's a new little pet, so to speak, or a new little body in the house, there's a little shifting and adjusting and a little looking over the shoulder. And I had, being Blondie there, not only Donna, who was killer gorgeous, then in comes Nicolette Sheridan. So, I mean, come on. I was, serving hors d'oeuvres and coffee and going home. No, I wasn't at all. They always took care, they took care of all of us. But yes, I have to say, I think anybody's lying if they say, oh no, piece of cake. Not necessarily. I mean, but you readjust because the writers are readjusting, you readjust, and what'll be heavier one week will come back to you 2 or 3 weeks later in another great storyline. But there is that, whoops, looking over your shoulder a bit. But we were grateful because Donna brought amazing, the villainess which helps any storyline, anything. And Nicolette brought, I can't even say, when she left the show, I said, now how am I going to know how to do it? More Joan Van Ark wanted to know how to do it, because VALENE never quite got that. She never got it. But Joan, because Nicolette put herself, and still does, she's amazing. And, I thought, how am I going to know how you put together the best blonde, the coolest blonde? So, they came and they left, and it was, but there was a core of us that a band of brothers and sisters that stayed together. It's odd, and I may get verklempt here. I think we've gotten closer, which is unbelievable because that's a long time ago, pioneer, but that's a long time ago that we were all together on a daily basis, pretty much. And we are now as close, and email and talk on the phone. And I've worked with Donna a couple times on shows, the two of us, and see her socially as I do Michelle, as I do Ted, less Ted, but recently I've seen Ted a lot more. We are perhaps closer, which is really something. And I think that's why it lasted for 14 glorious years, because you won't see a show now last that long, I don't think, unless Law and Order has gone there. It's an interesting story, and that you bring it up, because I was on one of the last episodes that Diana Hyland did before her passing, because she got, as we all know, very ill, and she was dating John Travolta, and she, at that time, because I'm always aspiring to the gorgeous blondes, she was the blonde. I mean, I looked at her and thought, this is exquisite, because she was just perfect blonde, just a brilliant actress, and so focused and fragile and intense and wonderful. And I idolized her. And yeah, it was one of the very first jobs I did when I moved out here from New York. I did a lot of theater in New York. And that was one of the first jobs. And I can't believe that, of course, that show, is that the first? Wow. And I don't even remember the character or anything, but I do know I had quite a bit with her. I mean, most of my stuff was with her. So that was a really, I don't know what, a difficult time, because the producer was going through, Bill Asher, going through quite a chapter in his life, and it was very intense on the set, and Cleavon, of course, is as funny as can be, and there was a lot of crazy energy on the show, which was good, but no one had time to say, wow, this is going to be a groundbreaker. We were all nose to the grindstone, and with comedy, it's almost harder, because you've got to be light and, you know, in the moment, and Quicksilver and 180 instead of, I don't know, down lower in speed. So you had to really be all pistons operating. But I did know that Cleavon, because I knew him from some theater in New York, theater work, he was getting used to television on that show too. So that was a kind of a jump for him, and it moved all pretty fast for him and pretty crazy. But he was extraordinary. I loved him. I can't believe, no, I cannot believe that there would be prejudice and attitude and stupidity. I made the mistake once of talking to a shampoo guy after I'd seen Mississippi Burning. I was discussing, and he was an African-American shampoo guy, and I said, I can't believe I just seen Mississippi, that there are people in the South that are like that. And I got up from this shampoo bowl and I was bald, because he got so upset, because that is a reality down there, but you don't think that it could be that way, ever, anywhere, but it is. And it may still be in some places, and I can't believe it. Well, the obvious experience on Wonder Woman was that I met Ted Shackelford, who moments later, unbeknownst to either one of us, would become my husband and partner on and off for 14 years. I had done the pilot for Knots with David Aykroyd, who was in a movie at Universal, Little Women, a 4-part, when they used to do 4 hours on a movie, which is long gone, darn. But so David Aykroyd's unavailable, and they had to find a new Gary Ewing. They called me after I had done Wonder Woman with Ted and said, we're looking at this guy, Ted Shackelford. We understand you've worked with him. What do you think? And I said, never, no, don't. We are way too much alike. We're both a little crazy. We work at a very high energy, blah, blah, blah. I said, that would never work. We're too alike. Go to the table read, who's sitting there as my husband. They really listened to me. It's Gary Ewing, Ted Shackelford. So they didn't mean anything. But working with him on Wonder Woman and working on that show was great fun. But all of our stuff, most of our stuff, Ted was dressed as a condom, as a giant condom. It was kind of a rubber outfit. I don't know. He looked ridiculous, I thought. And I'm some kind of very butch character with a blonde haircut like this and lots of technical jargon, and we're working in a, things that Blondie here doesn't have a clue what those are. And Ted had to operate all the knobs and the buttons and the things, and we're trying to spit out dialogue like this and that. And I loved being with Linda Carter and working on the show and meeting Ted, but I had no idea how crazy and tough and what a surprise it was going to be that just maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months later, I was going to spend almost the rest of my life, the whole middle chapter, with this same actor. But it was fun. No, I wouldn't say, I think a bit tongue-in-cheek, because we wouldn't be sitting there with all those knobs and buttons and Ted dressed as a condom if it was for real, for real. I haven't done a lot of space. In fact, I don't think I've done any. Oh, I did do Captain Quark with Richard Benjamin. Buck Henry wrote it and directed our episode. And I was Empress Libido. That was my character's name. And I was dressed as Jane Fonda with the short, and the boots up to here, pointed toe boots, hot, hot, hot. I mean, crazy, and it was like Barbarella that Jane Fonda did. And I was Empress Libido, and that's the only other show like that I've done. So they were both definitely a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Absolutely, it's okay with me because I think she was good to me, and I hope for her sake I was good to her. But I don't mind that, but I am so proud of my Tony nomination from Broadway. I did School for Wives with Brian Bedford, a Moliere play, and I was Tony nominated, so I'm so proud of that. And I was also, as a director, nominated for a Humanitas Award, which is a magnificent accomplishment and honor. And it was an after-school special. It was always a dream of mine to direct one, which I did, and I got a nomination for that. But no, VALENE, you're right. I'm going to probably always be known for that, but you know what? I'm not done yet. So I think I'm going to give you something else, and I hope she's as far from VALENE and as New York as it can possibly be, as this girl can possibly. I'll tap into the New York side of Joan Van Ark. Like I said, if there was another reunion, I definitely think she would come back full bore New York with running the studio. No, but it's funny, because I think anytime they do a reunion, they just want to see if you're in wheelchairs and on walkers. That's all they want. I think that we are the original Desperate Housewives, without a doubt. Without a doubt, we were the originals, and they've done magnificently. And Mark Cherry has given us, the audience, some delicious ladies, but I feel like we started it, and he took it and ran, and God bless him. That's the hardest thing, having come from a show for 14 plus, for me with Dallas, it's 15 years of my life. And we are a family, and I created the character, and that wonderful lady, woman, whatever, went all kinds of places and did all kinds of things. When you guest in for a week on a show that's already a family, and that includes for me, Young and Restless, which is also a CBS daytime show, I could never quite accept that I wasn't a visitor in their house, because it was my house in part, my cul-de-sac on Knots, and it is the most difficult, I have to say, as an actress, for me anyway, the most difficult to jump into another family and capture their rhythms and their. John LaRoquette told me once when he went into Boston Legal, I think, he said it took him almost a season to catch the rhythm and the differences in each of the actors and his partners that he would have, because he created a show too. But when you're guesting in, you've got to see if you can swim their laps at the same rate they do, or learn the little ups and downs of that set. So it is very difficult. I'll welcome the challenge in a heartbeat, but it is definitely there. It is definitely there. Well, first of all, with Nip Tuck, you've got the amazing Ryan Murphy, and he's there, and so was Brad Falchuk, who co-creates with him now, and did on that show, and was our director, was Brad. But for for Abby and Val, for Joan and Donna to be playing members of the Beverly Hills Cougar Club, you couldn't have written anything that would make me happier than that. I had a ball. I loved the actors on the show. I loved the whole thing. And we went back. We were the only two of that Cougar Club who reoccurred in an episode in their final year. So we did do a couple of them, but I loved that. I thought that Joan and Donna would be the, partners as Cougars was just right for me. A guest star role that was difficult. I have to. Oh, I do know, but I have to be kind of careful. I do know. It was a wonderful show because Jo Beth Williams. It was called The Client, and I played. It must have been shortly after Knots Landing, and I tend at home, as does Michelle, Donna, Barbara Streisand. Many actresses do themselves or start themselves at home, which really helps when you're guesting. You're halfway there. You don't have, because you get sloppy thirds and fourths and fifths when you're a guest star. So if you've got 5 minutes, you're lucky with hair and makeup. And it was a bit of a crazy lady part, which I love, and lots of it with Jo Beth. But her makeup person wanted to do my makeup, and we got kind of cross-wired and whatever, and they said the makeup was too pale, and they were all talking about things that were all not about the work, and it just got so crazy, and that's the only thing that jumps to mind. But I mean, we still did, and I saw the show, and I thought it was kind of good, but it was Jo Beth Williams, The Client. But it is tricky to jump in. It just really is, because you have 1 week to establish a character, and that's it, and then you're gone, bye-bye.